as previously we ended up, I would like to really touch briefly on Genesis 3 when man fell, according to the Bible description of how man fell, what made man fall, and those points must be jotted and noted seriously, and let's see what we come up with, whether God is in the beginning, God is in the end, whether the God that is in the middle of it, or the beginning or the end of it, is the true God, or we have really described God, or the Bible has really presented God as perfect as we would want, or we should expect God to be presented. That is the challenge of my video this moment. In chapter 3 of Genesis, the book of Moses, in the possibility thinkers in my translation, it sort of reveals that now, it says that now, the details of sin is in now. The cunning snake has somehow deceptively, God created the snake. God created him very cunning and very deceptive, and that is how the Bible sort of explain. And we also know from the introduction that whoever made that suggestions, or from the academics, I am only presenting it on a very basic approach, so that even the simplest person, or the person who is not too much educated, or have simple English understanding, or simple English language, would understand what I'm trying to say. I don't make it, I'm not going to come up with big words, or words that will be hard to understand, or would be hard to explain myself, so that it will lead me to the understanding I'm trying to put forth, and my listener will have a very calm and attentive approach to it, to the whole idea that I'm putting forth. So as it says here, it says the serpent was very cunning, very deceptive, and God made the serpent according to the Bible. And when we go to Adam, God made Adam. When we go to Eve, the woman, God made the woman. So man and woman, the snake, they're all created by the same God of the Bible, the God Jehovah, the God Elohim, the God, the provider, the God omniscient, the God omnipotent, the God, the creator. He made all that, And he says that when they got deceived, they sort of disobeyed the laws of God, which in chapter 2 it says that God gave everything to man and asked them not to eat an apple. One of the apple, which is the tree of life, they were not supposed to touch the tree that has got an apple, which has got some sort of divine power, or divine consciousness which leads people to become aware of good and bad. Such a tree was planted there at the garden. Now, why God did not keep such a tree away from them, I don't know, but he put such a tree there and told them not to touch it, because he knows that they will not touch it, or maybe he knew they were going to touch it. Now, we are talking about the omniscient God. He knew everything. So whatever his intentions were at that time that made him leave the tree there, I don't know. Now, according to the Bible, the garden that they lived in, the garden that these two people were placed, the first man, the first woman were placed, was in the east of, were somewhere in the east of, what do you call it? In the east of what, Egypt, or the east of Philistine, because according to the Bible, what do you call it? It was written. This book was written. It was written. The writer, whoever the writer was, was writing from Philistine or was writing from Egypt. So it's presumed, even though up to date, 1996, when this book was being printed, it is not very clear, the writer of this book of Genesis, but it is presumed that it is all about Moses. Yet we also know that it is God who inspired it, that is words regarding God himself and all about God. So God was trying to put forth a story about his creation. Now, here we have here in this book, that this Bible that I'm reading, which suggesting that they are not very clear who the writer was, but the writer was writing from Philistine or Egypt. And so the garden was in the east of whoever was writing at that instance. So the east then is then seen as somewhere between going towards the Tigris River or the Euphrates River, which is heading towards the Persian Gulf or the Asian Minor, the Arabian Sea, the Canaan areas, high above, but recently, according to the writer, they also suggest that somehow anywhere around the Nile River, the Red Sea areas, that, and that's where the garden may be. But it is also presumed that it could be that the garden can never be found, is somewhere lost or somehow, because geographically we know that the earth has been shifted here and there, and rivers or the waters or the seas has swallowed most of the land at the point in time. So wherever the garden was, up to date we don't even know. This would have been a good evidence to prove this book and sort of show its authenticity, the truth in this book, to know that the truth was valid, this book is valid, and this book has got some grounds of truth in it. So since these things cannot be found, somehow God is hiding something from us, or is preventing us from knowing the foundation of which we are, that we stand on, the foundation of which we are built for some other reason. So in every way, there isn't anything that suggests that God even wants us to know the truth or wants us to understand what the truth is, even though the book at some point we will get there, which suggests that God commands us to seek for the truth, and yet he prevents us from knowing the truth. He can easily tell us what the truth is, but we are having numerous accounts of stories from different people, all claiming God, with all claiming spirits. We have the Mohammedan descendants in two sessions of the Muslims and the Christians, and the Hinduism of three sessions, as in the Hindus, and Judaisms, who are all coming up with, the Judists, I'll say, who are all coming up with different stories or storylines that they believe that they have been inspired by God to share from their prophets. And so, if this book hasn't got a very good, sort of grounds for me to sort of look at it and say, okay, this is truly the word of God. These are coming from, this is who wrote the book, or this is where the garden is. Then one has to be careful to sort of, when it comes to concluding that what this book is or what this book stands for. But I know others have gone all the way to sort of be bold, to sort of claim its truthiness and all that, and that's entirely their choice, not mine. Getting back to the fall of man, it says here that in the garden, somehow men then the woman listened to the voice of the what you call it, the cunning snake, the cunning serpent. As to why, I don't know, but the woman took heed of what the snake was saying. Now, this is a talking snake or a talking animal, which today we don't normally come to see snakes talking, but that's what the story says. And